The door to Urmila's chambers was massive, made of dark teak and carved from top to bottom with fierce looking mythical beasts, their mouths open and snarling. I didn't remember seeing them before. Had things changed magically in the palace while we were gone? Did the beasts symbolize the anger Urmila felt at having been abandoned by her husband and sister and imprisoned in this dungeon of sorrow and hopelessness? Or was it that I had never noticed the carvings before because when we lived here, Urmila had always kept her doors open along with her heart for her beloved family? Did the closed doors indicate that she had closed her heart to me? It was no use thinking like this. I rapped sharply on the nose of one of the beasts, but nothing happened. I knocked several times, shouting Urmila's name. Did anyone hear me? Was Urmila's maid, if she even had one anymore, as inefficient as the girl who had meandered into my chambers? Or had Urmila given instructions that I was not to be let in? Had I been overly confident in believing that my sister would forgive me? Finally, when I had just about to give up hope, the door was flung open. I was surprised to see that it was Lakshman himself who opened the door. I had expected him to be at the royal court assisting Ram. I was further surprised because he was disheveled and unkempt. Even in the forest, Lakshman had taken care to be as clean as possible, his hair tied up neatly, his bark clothes regularly washed and stretched out to dry. But today he was still in his travel clothes, unbathed, chin stubbled, dark circles under his eyes, as though he hadn't slept at all. Thank the heavens that you have come, sister in law, he cried. I wanted to get you last night itself, but I hesitated to disturb you and my brother after our long journey. Urmila just won't wake up. I have been trying all night. I sent to the city for physicians, but they couldn't help either. I hurried after him to their bedchamber. The room was dark, the window coverings closed. Urmila lay stretched out on the massive bed. But whereas a person who was sleeping would have lain with her head on pillow, covered with a comfortable quilt, my sister lay in Shavasana, stretched out to her full length, her face peaceful but pale. She too was dressed in bark cloth. Seeing her lying in the yogic dead man's pose alarmed me. I was further startled to see that she didn't look a day older than when I had left Ayodhya. And yet, in some way I couldn't define, she seemed like a completely different person. Placing my fingers at her nostrils, I could feel Urmila's breath steady but very slow, as though she were in a coma. My heart lurched in fear. There had been a man in my father's palace in Mithila, a groom kicked in the head by a horse. The palace physicians and I had worked on him for a long time until his vital sense were stable, but he never regained consciousness. His breath had been just like this. I hid my fears from Lakshman and told him to join Ram in court. When he looked uncertain, I told him that Ram needed him. I knew that would persuade him. I will take care of things here, I said with more confidence than I felt. Send her maid to me if she has one. Soon after Lakshman left, a woman appeared looking frightened as though I might blame her for Urmila's condition. She told me that she was Urmila's chief maid, the only one who had remained with her. Her name was Saudamini, and from her I finally learned that what had happened after I had abandoned my sister. For a long time she sat on your balcony with those dead flowers strewn around her, so still that she might have been carved from the same stone. No one knew this except me. Everyone was gathered around the old king who was dying. But I stayed close to her. I was afraid she might try to throw herself from the balcony. Finally, late at night, she came back to her rooms and locked the doors and lay in bed. She refused to eat or drink and she refused to open the doors when, a couple of days later, Queen Sumitra finally remembered to check on her. The old king was dead by then, and the entire palace was in turmoil. I was getting really scared, afraid she would die of starvation. She was getting weaker each day, but on the third night, she sat up and told me to get her some bark cloth to wear, like my husband's, she said. I brought it, though it broke my heart to see her dressed like this, her being so young and recently married. I begged her to drink some milk at least, but she just told me to leave her. In the morning, when I came back to check, she was lying on the bed just like you see her today. Terrified, I called the mothers. We tried to give her water, but nothing would pass her lips. We called on doctors and priests. They could not do anything for her either. Some said an evil spirit had taken over her body, but I didn't believe that. Finally, a wise woman stopped by and said something beyond mortal understanding was going on. But it was not anything bad. We should leave Princess Urmila be the way she was. Keep curious people away from her and wait, hoping time would take care of things. So that is what I did. Saudamini looked at me as though afraid that I would chide her. How could I? She had done her best, while I had abandoned Urmila. I felt more guilt than ever, but I pushed it away. Guilt exuded negative energy, and right now I needed as much positive strength as possible. I thanked Saudamini for her loyalty and gave her a gold chain, for I was certain she had not been paid in a long time. Now let me be alone with my sister, I said. I climbed onto the bed and sat with Urmila's head in my lap. I placed my hands on her forehead, trying to feel her spirit. It took a long time before I could sense the slightest stirring. The spirit had receded far away and was reluctant to return to this plane of sorrows. Come back, dear one, I called to it. You have suffered a great deal, but now a happy time is about to start. Your beloved husband is back, and he longs to spend with you the hours that had been wrested away from you both. But the spirit, peaceful in its distant abode, would not listen. I tried over and over to no avail, and now it seemed that my sister's breath was fading. In my desperation, I could only think of one thing. I would sing her the song I had made up when we met Ram and Lakshman. On that night, I had sung it so she would calm down and sleep. But perhaps it will work in reverse today, reminding her of the excitement, how it was poised to re enter her life. My voice trembled as I sang. The wind blows through the forest and comes to rest on the branches of the pomegranate tree in our father's garden. The day has come, it sings. The heroes are on their way, faces of gold, eyes glimmering like mountain lakes. Will they bear our hearts away with them to our destinies? The last notes faded away, but Urmila did not move. Giving up, I lay down, cradling her as though she were a child, and tears of hopelessness speed from between my closed lids. Then I felt it, a cool, firm grasp around my wrist. My startled eyes flew open, and there was my sister, her head turned to look at me. Urmila, I cried, embracing her joyfully. For a moment, she lay unmoving, as though she didn't know who I was. Then her arms reached out, but slowly, as though she had forgotten what such a gesture meant. And when I pulled back to look at her more closely, I saw that though her body had not aged, her eyes were different, at once wise and distant. It took a whole day before Urmila would speak. This finally was what she told me. On the day the three of you left, I made up my mind to die. What was the use, I thought to myself, of living on when I had been rejected by the one man I had adored with all my heart since the day I met him? Ram took you with him. Why then did Lakshman refuse to take me? Was I so unworthy? Well, then I decided I would free myself of this unworthy life. I sat in meditation, hoping to drop my body, hoping death would come to me like he did to faithful wives in mythical tales. If that didn't work, there was always the balcony. I sat for a long time, days perhaps, with my mind focused on death. I was able to focus purely and completely because nothing else mattered to me any longer. In time, the world around me faded, and in the darkness, I heard a voice, gentle and reasonable, unlike what I had expected. I am Lord Yama. You have meditated on me with such intensity that I have been forced to come to you. What is it you want? Take me away from this misery, I cried. I can end your life, Death said, but it would benefit no one, not even yourself. For the suffering you seek to escape in this way is your karma, and you will have to undergo it in another life. Would you not rather help your husband? That is what I want more than anything in the world, I cried. But Lakshman has refused to let me do it. There are always of assistants that lie beyond what you mortals can conceive, the voice said as it receded. I will send you my sister to you. I sat in the silent dark for a life stretch, wondering if death had tricked me. I sat until time became a river and I a stone submerged in it. Finally, I heard a voice so comforting that I wanted to wrap myself in it like a blanket on a cold day. I am Nidra, goddess of sleep, it whispered. Few humans are ever privileged to see me. I visited your husband earlier today, who asked me for a strange boon. He feels it is his duty to guard Ram and Sita through their 14 years of exile. Thus, he begged that I should stay away from him during these years. His cause was just and exalted, and his heart pure, so I felt sympathy. I said to him, I am willing to grant your desire, but I am like a karma. I can be deferred, but not escaped. If I do what you say, then when you return to Ayodhya, I must descend on you, and 14 more years of your life will pass before you wake again. So be it. Lakshman said without hesitation, and marveling at his dedication to his brother, I granted his wish. But then he will lose all the years of his youth. I cried in great distress. Is there nothing I can do to change your decree? Nidra said, my elder brother Death is impressed with your dedication to your husband and has asked me to take pity on your distress. Thus, I offer you this choice. You may take on Lakshman's sleep for the next 14 years. This will pay off his debt to me. A part of me was afraid. What would happen if I fell into 14 years of sleep? Would people think I was dead and cremate my body? Then I thought, I don't care. If it helps Lakshman, I will do it. I agreed. I cried. Even as I spoke, sleep descended on me. My body fell inert onto the bed. I heard the distant voice of the goddess. Sleep now, Urmila, whose sacrifice few will know and praise. But there is my gift to you. I will not mire you in the blankness of common human sleep, but allow you to experience Yoga Nidra, where the working of the world become available to the subtle intellect. As she spoke, my spirit rose out of my body and was suspended in a globe of light. In that state, I understood many things, though I am not permitted to speak of them. Most of all, I understood that things happen to us for many complicated reasons, arising from both the past and the future. Thus, I am no longer sorrowful for all that has taken place in my life, or the things that are about to happen in yours. Urmila looked at me, a deep peace in her gaze, but a cold lump of fear filled my belly. What do you mean? What is about to happen? But now Urmila threw her arms around me as though she had suddenly turned back into the little sister I used to take care of. It seemed that she had forgotten everything she had just told me. Sister, I am so happy to see you, she cried. Are you back from the forest already? Saudamini, Saudamini, isn't there anything to eat in this place? I am starving. And I bet sister is too. I summoned a delighted Saudamini who ran down to the kitchen to fetch the food Shrava had saved for me. Urmila and I ate together, laughing and wiping away each other's tears, and I told her a little of my adventures. Then it was time for another task, the one I dreaded the most. I had expected to wait outside Kaike's chamber for a long time. In fact, I hadn't been sure if I would be allowed in at all. But even before I reached the elegant doors carved out of ivory, they swung open, and two maids, bowing, led me to an inner courtyard. Kaikeyi, at least, had kept a firm grip on her household affairs. The corridor I walked through was perfectly clean, not a speck of dust anywhere, the floor stones shining. Anger surged through me, though I tried to tamp it down. Intent on Preserving her power, this woman had turned the place upside down, insisting on having her own selfish way. She had precipitated her husband's distressful death, caused immense sorrow to other queens, and sent us to exile and war. If she hadn't banished Ram, we would never have met Surpanaka, and I would never have been abducted by Ravan. I remembered my unending year of grief in the Ashokavan, grief that Kaikeyi could not imagine. Instead, here she was, enjoying in her own little palace within palace, with everything just the way she wanted. Rage rose up in me. Where was the justice in this? I was additionally outraged when I stepped into the courtyard. Lined up against the walls in beautifully carved stone pots were all the flowers of Mithila that I had grown with such care on my balcony, the flowers that had died on the day I left. How had Kaikeyi found out about them? Had she sent her spy Manthara to my chambers when I had been busy with my mother in law? I imagined the hunchback snooping through my rooms. I imagined Kaikeyi using her wealth to have the plants shipped from Mithila so she could enjoy them while Ram, Lakshman, and I trudged through the thorny forest. Fury flashed through me like lightning, and any thoughts I had had of reconciliation were burned to ashes in it. I turned to leave. Clearly, Kaikeyi was doing just fine. I need not have wasted my time coming to check on her welfare. Just then, a ghost like shadow detached itself from one of the pillars and knelt at my feet. It was a woman, so thin that the knobs of her bones showed through the thin white widow sari she was wearing. It took me a moment to recognize the proud Kaikeyi in this woman who touched her forehead to the ground meekly and wordlessly. Was this another of Kaikeyi's dramas? Did she think that expiation for what she had done to us was so simple? I was not going to fall for it. I hardened my face and stepped away from her towards the door. One of Kaikeyi's maids came forward, palms joined. My mistress has taken a vow of silence, but with her last words, she instructed me to say the following. She knows she can never make up for the pain she caused you and your husband. She cannot understand what came over her like a fever, forcing her to insist on the two terrible boons that destroyed your lives. She wants you to know that she hasn't had a day of peace since then. First, to see her beloved husband, who held her so dear to his heart, die of grief, blaming her. And then to be berated and shunned by her son, for whose kingship she had risked all. She hadn't imagined either of these happenings, but she understood why they did. Only ill fortune can come out of evil. She has spent her days in penance since then, praying for your safety, waiting for Ram to return, so she might express her repentance. She sent for all these plants and cared for them herself all these years, hoping that they can replace the garden you're forced to leave behind. She doesn't ask anything of either of you, certainly not forgiveness. She merely wished to see you before she ended her life. The maid pointed, and I saw what I hadn't noticed before. On one side of the courtyard, a pyre had been readied, pieces of wood stacked, ghee poured on them for easy burning. The sight of the pyre made me dizzy, taking me back to the battlefield at Lanka, scene of my supreme humiliation, my rejection by the man I had loved with all my heart. I had to hold on to a pillar to keep from falling. Ah, how difficult it was to know in this world filled with grey shades what was right and what was wrong. Ram had thought, in telling me to leave him and go away, that he was doing his duty as the future king of Ayodhya. Were Kaikeyi's actions, which sprang from love for her son and a desire to secure the kingdom for him, that much worse? She hadn't hurt me any more than Ram had. If I could forgive him, could I not forgive her? I bent and raised her up, the once proud Kaikeyi, now swaying like a faded flower in the breeze, bereft of all her beauty and her glory. Go to the court, I told Kaikeyi's maidservant. Tell Ram that I am requesting his presence in Queen Kaikeyi's chambers as soon as possible. When Ram arrived, I pulled Kaikeyi forward. She hid her face in shame, but I put her trembling hands in Ram's strong, calloused ones. My sensitive, wise Ram, he looked at the funeral pyre, at the flowers, and even without a word of explanation, he understood. Kaikeyi Ma, he said, embracing the woman who had caused him so much grief. His voice was full of affection, a balm for the wounded heart. And Kaikeyi, finally giving in to tears as she held her, knew she was forgiven. Thanks for listening.